how's it going? Welcome back to Ground Zero Salem. As always, I'm your host, Patrick. We are listening to the initiated LP that I ranted and raved about last update, World on Fire. This record got me thinking about summer, about how much I love rock and roll based music, rock and roll of all stripes, some of which falls under the umbrella of punk, some of which falls under the umbrella of metal, but more just back to basics, 50s and 60s rooted, maybe even 70s style, but before the whole prog thing came in. Just often 3 or 4 chord, bar chord, verse chorus, simple, dumb, awesome rock and roll. So it kind of spans a lot of things for me, a lot of genres. But it's all rock and roll. It's all good time music. If you consider what rock and roll did for America, back in the 50s and 60s, it did a lot to shake away a lot of unnecessarily conservative cultural norms. It united a lot of people racially. It's one of the things I'm proud about being American. So, not to get too heavy with that sort of thing, but I wanted to get back to the point of it's summertime, and it's time for just some good time rock and roll. Right now, I'm totally fucking headfirst into black and death metal, really. But usually around this time of year, I'm spinning stuff like this. I got 18 LPs here, 1 cassette and 1 CD. I don't know if I'm gonna get through all that. We'll see. Might end up being a 2-parter, which usually ends up in tears. Usually, like, half the people who watch the first one watch the second part of anything I do, any 2-part series, but if I get tired of talking, I'm just gonna stop, probably cut myself off around the 20-25 minute mark. So anyway, let's start at the beginning, so to speak, at least at the beginning of my tastes of getting into stuff like this, sort of. One of the first bands I ever listened to that could be considered part of this whole idea behind this video. We got Motorhead with On Parole here. Now, the story of On Parole, most of you probably know it. Not to just rehash shit, that we've all read on the internet, or in this case, that's available in the liner notes here, but Lemmy got ousted from Hawkwind for possession of cocaine in Canada. He ended up in jail, and they booted him. He ended up enlisting a couple of guys who only played on this record and left for one reason or the other. Of course, he got Fast Eddie Clarke and Phil the Animal Taylor, and they re-recorded pretty much this whole thing as the Motorhead self-titled. This had, what's his name here? It says right here. Larry Wallace, who was in the Pink Fairies, who are also great, and if I had any of their recorded material in a physical format, I'd be showing it. They were sort of in between this weird hard rock and proto-punk and like almost psychedelia, weird kind of sarcastic lyrics, very interesting, very good band. And actually, City Kids on this record was a Pink Fairies song. I think there's a couple of reworked Hawkwind tunes on here as well, The Watcher and Lost Johnny, I believe. Motorhead, of course. So yeah, this is, Lemmy, when he started this, when he recorded this, had a British version of MC5 in mind, and I can sort of see that. This does have that certain ripping fucking Detroit rock and roll kind of thing going on. Although MC5 songs, except for the Kick Out the Jams and a few others, were pretty long and kind of psychedelic to me. I never really got into MC5 other than the heavy hitter songs for one reason or another, which I know is shameful, but my tastes are my tastes, Yeah, not gonna re-sleeve. Never re-sleeve. You owe it to your watchers. Then, these don't go in any sequence whatsoever. Laundry's done. They're just random shit that I picked out that I think of when I think of summer and rock and roll and having fun. This is the Headcoats, part of the whole garage rock revival that was big in the 90s. It was constantly in Maximum Rock and Roll, which drove me nuts at the time because I wanted to read more about crust bands and pogo punk bands. But this is awesome. It sounds like 60s garage rock with more snotty British kind of vocals, maybe a little faster than a traditional 60s garage rock band like the Sonics or something like that. Featuring Billy Childish, whatever his name is, however you pronounce that. I've heard Childish. I'm no expert on this genre at all, by the way. Who went on to do solo stuff. There was also the Head Coatees that I think were like a female take on this band. There's a lot of weird insider baseball type of shit with this stuff that I don't quite get. But yeah, great fucking record. Super snotty, stripped down guitars. It's recorded in mono. It's on Hangman's Daughter Records. It's just a simple black LP. There's nothing to show. I know I always go back and do this, and maybe someday I'll train myself to actually follow YouTube vinyl protocols properly, but this is on white vinyl, by the way, and it's a back on black pressing. But I think at this point, Back on Black actually got their shit together, because it sounds pretty good. Nice gatefold also, by the way, with the Motorhead there. Young Lemmy. God damn it, I miss that man. Sure we all do. Up next is another all-time favorite summer record. I have this on cassette in the car as well. I've spun this thousands of times. This is what some people consider a pop-punk band from Indianapolis, Indiana. But to me, it's just, yeah, it's got the punk element as far as the snottiness goes, but it's so, like, just ballsy rock and roll. A lot of people swear by their first album, Sloppy Seconds' first album. This one's called Knock Your Block Off. It's on Tang Records. A lot of people swear by Destroyed, which was the first one that I got, which is another awesome record. It looks like the cover of Kiss Destroyer, but with these schlubby guys in the place of, you know, the guys in Kiss stomping over stuff. A lot of people swear by Destroyer, or Destroyed, because it's faster, it's more like driving, Ramonesy, slightly poppy, snotty pop punk rock, but I like this one. This one almost has a little bit more of a Cheap Trick 70s melodic kind of thing. Super, super influenced by junk culture. You can see on the back they're playing with the Rock'em Sock'em Robots that are on the front there. If you dig like the Misfits, they kind of have a similarity in that way with like a lot of references to B-movies and that kind of drive-ins and Russ Myers stuff, and just super fun, super fun stuff. They have a song called Ejaculation that's kind of making fun of Van Halen's Eruption. It's just a bad solo. Super cool band. Definitely like on the Ramonesy side, but not a worship kind of thing. Like a lot more of like a little bit more of, like I said, like a Cheap Trick or a poppy 70s rock kind of thing thrown in. Snotty vocals like hell. All right. And we got good old Rocky Erickson. This guy seems to be gaining popularity with a lot of metalheads. I wasn't even aware. Obi strip fell out. I wasn't even aware of his existence until about 10 years ago. I went to the first Chaos and Teos Fest that I attended. He performed, and I'd never heard of him, and I caught it, and I was like, holy shit, who's this guy? And Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top came up on stage and played with him, which was really awesome. And I came to find out that he helped invent psychedelic rock with the 13th Floor Elevators, and was a paranoid schizophrenic who made a massive recovery thanks to his brother. There's a whole documentary about him. He's a very, very, very fascinating man. Definitely one of the first people that experimented with heavy psychedelic drugs and brought it into the music. Although his first band just kind of sounded like a garage band. They weren't 13th Floor Elevators there. They weren't particularly spacey sounding or anything. But anyway, this record that he went on after he got out of the psych ward and everything with his band The Aliens is way more 50s and 60s rock and roll sounding. It's got a certain, again with the whole B-movie thing, his mental illness is kind of apparent from the lyrics and the song titles. Two-Headed Dog, I Think of Demons, a lot of conspiracy theory kind of stuff. Musically, it's got almost kind of a Creedence Clearwater sort of rootsy rock and roll, but with a little bit of new wave and punk kind of thing going on. It's the best description I can muster up. This is a beautiful reissue. I don't know what the name of the label is. Yeah, I don't know. Light in the Attic Records, there we go. But yeah, this has got I think got some bonuses on it. Very, very beautifully produced. I believe it originally came out on a major. Great stuff. Switching gears a bit, this is the Lovely Lads. And if you are familiar with my channel, probably heard me rant and rave about a band called Battle Ruins, who are more of a new wave of British heavy metal, Viking rock, street rock, oi kind of thing. Lovely Lads were their predecessors, with pretty much the same members except for one or two guys, I think. This is a reissue of their demo on Lionheart Records. Cool stamped labels there. This was way more just straight up oi, but with way more of that sort of, I don't know what those kind of riffs are called, but the Chuck Berry riffs where you go one note up, that kind of thing. You know, definitely heavily based in classic rock and roll as much as like the British street punk oi kind of stuff. Super negative lyrics, very angry. Brendan, the vocalist, who I think I've mentioned this when I've mentioned Battle Ruins before, also went on to sing in Magic Circle, who are like a traditional heavy metal, doom metal kind of band. So this is when he started to get his vocal chops in as well. And this record, I also, when I had bought the original demo of this, I listened to it into the friggin' ground. Never stopped listening to that one. And this is the Colored Balls with Ball Power. Yeah, all of you with a 12-year-old mentality like me, try not to snicker too much. Great band. Sing Song Records. Probably an Australian label, I think, because this is an Australian band. This is from a really interesting movement and youth subculture in the early 70s in Australia called the Sharpies. And they were kind of similar to the original British skinheads before the whole racism Nazi thing came in, where it was all about dressing really sharp and dressing nice, but being working class, you know. There's a bazillion documentaries on both. Just look it up. I hate explaining this shit to people. But yeah, they had a certain style of dress that was very, very something. But they had the cropped hair with the little mini mullets. It's the way they all dressed. Surface level appearances aside, this is some kick-ass rock and roll as well. It kind of veers off into psychedelic territory here and there, but the other half of it's almost like, I don't know, like 50s rock and roll, bordering on rockabilly-ish stuff. There's a few songs on here that predate the whole punk explosion of '77 by 2, 3, 4 years, but they are just as fast, like hyper fast. There's a song on here called Won't You Make Up Your Mind? Minute and 32 seconds of just punch in the gut, cut away all the excess, fast as fuck rock and roll. Yeah, but this shit's great. And there were a bunch of bands like this in Australia in the early 70s. It's definitely a fascinating thing that I just learned about, I don't know, in the past decade or so. I had no idea about it. But yeah, cool combination of like hard, fast rock and roll, glam rock, and a little bit of psychedelia. There are some other bands too, but they're the most well-known one from that whole scene. There's a band called Buster Brown that I think one of the guys from Rose Tattoo ended up in, etc., etc. Got the Nips. Full name was the Nickel Erectors. This is Shane McGowan from the Pogues' first band, or band before the Pogues anyway. 77, punk era. This is a bootleg. It is on a cool color, however. I keep saying I don't care about colors, and I'm like, oh, check out this cool color. But yeah, that was smoky bronze, coffee stain, nicotine stain. Picture the band on the labels. This band, you can see a couple of the guys are kind of teddy boy looking, another subculture. Teddy boys were kind of like the greasers of England, and that influence kind of shows in the music. It's definitely upbeat, snotty punk, but keep in mind, punk was just taking rock and roll back to the roots and trying to take it back from psychedelia and prog, so, you know, it makes sense that all this shit sounds like Buddy Holly and Chuck Berry on 45 RPM. But this definitely has a little bit more of a significant rockabilly influence in the beginning tracks. The later tracks, these are 2 7-inches, 3 7-inches on here, and then a 4th 7-inch that was recorded live, it looks like. The first 2 7-inches are definitely that super fast roots rock and roll, rockabilly inspired punk. Later on, they get more almost kind of Elvis Costello, Joe Jackson-ish, you know, that kind of tuneful, new wavy kind of stuff, which I like too. But these guys are great, and I have a soft spot for the Pogues as well. We got some new Bomb Turks. This gets into an interesting territory. It's more kind of that 90s garage rock, garage punk kind of stuff. But kind of like it's on Crypt Records, which were a big deal for bands of this ilk. But kind of like the Headcoats, you know, it took a lot from the old 60s garage bands. And just 60s rock and roll in general that was poorly recorded at the time. Kingsmen and the Sonics and whatever. And just doubles the speed. So it's almost like a hardcore or punk tempo. But the music structures themselves are very based in that kind of rock and roll. But it is, besides all that, this is some teeth-kicking out fucking insanity right here. Like, you're gumming after you listen to this. You're fucking gumming. It's awesome. What's my jam on here? Band, let's see. Is it on here? Dragstrip Riot right there. It's just like, oh my god. If you like Motorhead, you know, everybody considers Motorhead a metal band. They certainly were later on, but that early Power Trio era stuff, if you're into that, especially the very first record, you'd probably like the new Bomb Turks too, because it's the same roots rock and roll, shit-kicking insanity. Then we're going to get into one of my favorite bands of all time, Antiseen. These guys are from South Carolina. They're still going. Their guitarist sadly passed away, Joe Young, last year or the year before. I've lost a lot of good ones lately. This is on TKO, I believe. It's a nice marbled green. You look at these guys and you almost think they'd be like a thrash band or a death metal band, just from the way they look. That is not the case. Southern rock influenced. Only in the gravelly, bluesy nature of the vocals are they Southern rock. There's no 10-minute long fucking Lynyrd Skynyrd shit on here. Although they do cover Needle in the Spoon by Lynyrd Skynyrd. They do a great job of it. But there's a persistent Ramones influence, a good blues influence. This is when they started to write better songs. Their early stuff's cool, but it's definitely almost Poison Idea, G.G. Allen, raw kind of stuff with a little bit of that southern undercurrent, but this is when they started to flesh it out. People Like You has organ on it. Fucking really, really cool. Good mix of styles. There's fast songs, a little bit slower groove. Not groove in the metal sense, but like a, 70s kind of groove. Here to Ruin Your Groove is the name of the record, but there's a little bit of that. Billy the Kid, they do that classic. There's a lot of wrestling influences on this, so those of you that are into pro wrestling, they announce them like at like a wrestler's announced at the beginning of the record. Yeah, really, really cool stuff. Dean Assad Speaks is like a wrestling promo. Can't rant enough about that band. Hookers, kind of along the same lines. These guys are a lot faster than Antiseen, though. Ballsy rock and roll, gravel-throated kind of stuff. Rock and roll riff structures, but very, very fast again. This is a live record. I'm not sure where these guys are from. The last time I thought about it, I think they're from the Pacific Northwest, but I could be totally fucking off. This is number 216 out of 666 on Sacco Shit Records. And again, dude totally looks like he could be in like a Niflheim cover band or something, but that is not what this sounds like. Let me pause this. Alright, back. The record is flipped. It is still smoking good. Keeping along the lines of Hookers and Antiseen, I got this little cassette here. I ordered this from a tape label from Chile, and I'm only talking about one of the bands on it because the Crushers are crossover thrash, but if you can see that, there we go. The Chargers. This is guys, Canadian dudes, ex-Blasphemy, ex-Witch's Hammer, and one other band, Procreation, I think. This is along the lines of that shit-kicking Motorhead Ramones-fueled 3-chord fucking bar chord, bar solo, blues solo, just nasty fucking rock and roll, and it's guys from fucking Blasphemy. I mean, you cannot fuck with that. If I can find a link on YouTube, I will post it. It is fucking vicious. It's great. Yeah, check that out. You know, it's really cool to hear that those guys are into doing something other than war metal, you know? And, adjust my camera. I feel like I'm always kind of crouching down. There we go. Anyway, we got Judah here. These are Italian dudes playing, 70s inspired glam rock. I'm talking about like Sweet and Slade, T-Rex, that kind of stuff. Very fucking awesome rock as shit. I mean, look at these guys. I don't know why this guy's wearing a dashiki bathrobe, but he looks cool. Yeah, just awesome, like, hooligan, anthemic glam rock. Lots of hand claps, some weird keyboards here and there. Just definitely, like, great shout-along, bouncy fucking glam. If you're familiar with that type of stuff, if you like Slade, this stuff's great. I'm just dipping into 70s glam, the basics, like, last couple of years myself. There's an amazing YouTuber who I want to shout out. He never updates, or he updates very rarely. I think he goes by BipBopBoom. I hope he makes a video soon because the guy's great. He lives in Boston as well, but I think he's originally from somewhere in New York, judging by his accent. He covers a lot of new wave of British heavy metal stuff, but he did a video on nothing but like wicked rare glam singles, and it blew my mind. There was so much stuff that I'd never heard of, so definitely check out BipBopBoom. We got Gory's House Rockin'. Detroit band. This is almost straight up 60s garage worship. It sounds like it's from the 60s. Wicked soulful R&B style kind of vocals. Not really much of a punk influence. It's pretty straight up, and it's fucking awesome. It's got a lot of soul to it. The first song, Farrell's a ripper. 3-piece. This came out on Crypt Records. And yeah, that's about it. That's about it with that. It's great. It's on black vinyl. The Judah came out on TKO. It's got a printed inner sleeve. That's black vinyl, I think. I'm not digging it back out. Moving forward, never backward. Hex Dispensers, Winchester Mystery House. This is very punk. I think it would appeal to maybe people that are into the Misfits and stuff like that, although this is far more poppy, far more garagey sounding. Also a 3-piece? No, 4-piece. Some female vocals back and forth with male vocals. Lots of great choruses. Very, very catchy. Black vinyl on DMR Records. Highly recommend that. Oh, DMR is short for Douchemaster Records. Fucking cool. Oh, re-sleeved. I'm such a hypocrite, man. Anyway, King Horse. This is some wild shit, man. This was I'm gonna go over talking about this. I know it. Fuck it, I'll make it a half hour. What are you gonna do? This is one that I always saw in Thrasher. The hype sticker said, "This is not a band. This is a holy war." Produced by Glenn Danzig. You got Pusshead cover art. So you know, I expected it, at least as a kid, to be like some sick thrash for some reason or another. And it's not. I mean, it's definitely... I can see why Glenn wanted to produce it, because in some ways it's very similar to early Danzig. In some ways it's totally not. I guess these guys were the darlings of the Kentucky scene back in the day. But they were quoted... I used to read a lot of interviews online, and I read a ton with them that I don't think are up anymore. But they said that, like, we want have as much to do with bands like the Bad Brains and hardcore bands and metal bands as we do, like, Molly Hatchet and Black Oak, Arkansas. You can hear that. There's a certain soulfulness in the vocals that I'd compare them to like early 90s grunge vocals, but these are more likable to my ears, you know, and maybe that's just a personal thing. Their singer has a tendency to just freak out and go from like that kind of crooning pitch to just going ah! And like it's tough. It's a little bit of an acquired taste. I feel like a lot of people did not care for this band back in the day, and they were kind of the butt of a lot of jokes. Look how intense that dude is, that fucking million-yard stare. But it's really good. It's, in my opinion, it's great. There's the song Caged, You're Not Man Enough to Let Me Out of This Cage. It's fucking great. Then they were a huge influence on the hardcore scene in Louisville. They used to be buddies with Endpoint, and they had brought them around. They were definite darlings of the scene. So, I wonder if the Panopticon dude, Austin, is into these guys. I don't know. We got Rose Tattoo, Rock and Roll Outlaw. I showed another one of their records on my, I think it was my Good Time record for the vinyl tag thing. I mean, fucking Rose Tattoo, dude. If you don't know these guys, I mean, I get it if you only listen to extreme stuff, but man, if you have any interest in just listening to some good proto-metal or rock and roll or whatever, if you like, especially if you like early AC/DC, I mean, these guys have a lot of token similarities to Bon Scott era AC/DC. Hard rock that's so driving and venomous that it could almost be punk in certain points. But these guys have some slide guitar. They get a lot faster than AC/DC. The song Astro Wally goes on for 5 minutes and 55 seconds, and it's almost the same tempo. And I never get sick of it. I never want it to end. Like, it's just such a fucking badass, ballsy riff. The Butcher and Fast Eddies, this great song about two rival gang leaders. It's like a storytelling kind of thing. Nice Boys Don't Play Rock and Roll, more like shit-kicking 50s inspired rock and roll through a heavy 70s filter. It is fucking great. The Lovely Lads cover a Rose Tattoo song, not from this record, but on that demo LP thing, as an added FYI. Speaking of the Lovely Lads and that whole cabal of people, this Vanity LP, probably my favorite record of 2014. This is Vanity. This is on Katorga Works, who are a pretty well-known New York punk label there. They put out some pretty great stuff over the years. Hank Wood and the Hammerheads, I think, and I think Cream and some other stuff. Actually, I believe this is a member of Cream. That's CREEM, hardcore band out of New York. Black vinyl there. Simple lyric sheet. This is rock and roll based street rock. Oi, gravelly bluesy vocals, a lot of stolen kind of Chuck Berry riffs. It's almost kind of like a guilt-free Screwdriver. A lot of Screwdriver influence on this. Although these guys, I'd say have more of a weird, very very slight like indie or like Brit pop kind of thing, just in touches here and there. I guess that influence is a lot stronger on their new record, but there's little nods to glam and stuff, like this Bit and Turned Rabid song that's totally like a Slade style song title. And Evan Radigan here is Brendan from the Lovely Lads and Battle Ruins, etc.'s younger brother. So keeping it in the family, the oi. Then just to round this out, I got this Cramps double CD. I mean, you can't fuck with the Cramps, man. Just taking the whole rockabilly thing, slowing it down, making it creepier, making it weirder. Human Fly, The Crusher, which is an old wrestler's theme song, changed around. Yeah, Jungle Hop, just primordial, oozing, fucking rockabilly, psychobilly, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that's it. Just got to take a break, from the death and black metal brutality once in a while. Open a summer shandy or something. Not right now. It's morning. Got to go to work later. Have some coffee here. That's it. Let me know what you think. This is a half an hour long. Thanks for subscribing. I hope you sat through this.